Your child, you better become an apostate. Your child, you better become an apostate. 24%. 24%. Your child, you better become an apostate. Your child, you better become an apostate.
One of the more shocking things that I have experienced over the course of those years are the number of young boys and girls who have openly declared their apostasy to me.
24%. Your child, you better become an apostate. Your child, you better become an apostate.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream today with myself and my wife, daughter of Christ. We're going to be starting out with something that we were made aware of yesterday on Avery's stream, and we're going to begin with that. But before we do, we want to let you guys know the format of today's stream. We're going to start with that. This section we're going to do that we just heard about yesterday on God Logic stream. We're going to give you guys some clips and reactions for that. And then we're going to transition to another part of the stream. It's going to just be me, and we're going to be reviewing a Speaker's Corner debate on preservation of the Qur'an. So really excited, guys. And thanks everybody for being here. If you guys could just please do hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. And here is Daughter of Christ.
Well, hello, everyone. God bless you all. Welcome to another live stream with myself and with Jai. Today in our news segment, we have good news.
Really good news.
Really good news. So get yourself settled down. Get your popcorn and Pepsi and whatever else you like to eat or drink. And be ready for this good news we have for you. If you don't know, we have been featuring on God Logic's stream a few times to talk about the Islamic dilemma and receive live calls, because God Logic's platform is mainly about receiving live calls. And sometimes we had even David Wood with us as well. And there was one person in particular that stood out to us. Her name was Miriam. And we even did a video clip of her story and what she talked about. So we're just going to go through Miriam's story and what happened with her, because we received an update on her. So,
yes, man, we were so happy. We were in tears when we were going through this. So first, we want to show you the original stream where we first met her. So we're just gonna have Avery introduce her real quick, and then we're gonna jump to another part of the stream that is relevant for the second call.
Right. So you can see Avery here on the left. You can see our logo just next to him.
We got Chris and David.
Yeah, Chris from Speaker's Corner, David Wood, and Miriam. Miriam. Okay.
All right, Miriam, welcome to the stage. Now, you said that you're a Muslim, but you didn't want to come and address the Islamic dilemma. There was something else that you wanted to talk about.
Okay, so here God Logic is introducing Miriam.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I don't know.
Do you want?
However much you want to play with this, we can do introductions. What the part we're going to get to is about 3 minutes or so in. So
okay,
we can do a little bit more if you.
Okay, so we'll just let him speak a little more.
It's up to you.
Which I think is worth talking about. Go ahead, Miriam. Can you hear us?
Hi, how are you all?
All right, we're pretty good. Pretty good.
Sorry, I don't want to take up your time. It's not on topic. Is this okay?
No, it's perfectly fine.
Okay. I stumbled upon David's video of the Islamic dilemma. I've never heard of it before. And I watched it and I got very angry and I blocked him.
Oh man, she blocked David Wood.
Yeah, she blocked David Wood. So that was the start of the story.
Yeah.
So thank you, David, for being blocked.
We were really interested, like in real time. We were like really interested. We were thinking, like, wait, where is this going?
Yeah.
Because she sounds like very humble, gentle, And he's like, yeah, I blocked David Wood. And we're like,
We're
okay,
like-
where's this going?
I'm like, okay, everybody blocks David Wood now. All right.
No.
and
Darn it,
then,
David.
That's what I would do.
I've done that before.
That's a good idea.
and then but it stuck in my head, so
Mm.
it was just annoying me.
That's exactly what we want to hear. So she heard what David said.
Mhm.
She blocked him, but it's stuck in her head. And if you guys are familiar with the book called Tactics by Greg Koukl, he talks about this, planting seeds, and he talks about like putting a pebble in somebody's shoe.
Mhm.
It's like it's just something that's like constantly there, and you're like, this thing is so annoying. What, I can't get this thing out of my head. And so that's what you want to do. So David did a video on the Islamic dilemma, and she heard that, got so annoyed by it, but she couldn't get it out of her head. Even though she blocked him, she couldn't get it out of her head.
And that's when the Lord stepped in.
And then last night I had this weird dream where I was with my family, and some Islamists tried to unalive us if we don't believe in Islam. And then Jesus showed up and saved me.
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
And these Islamists, for some reason, ended up unaliving my family members anyway, which was very weird. And then in the dream, I remember asking him for some sign or some, like, I never pictured Jesus, but this is what I just knew it was him.
Yeah.
And I asked for some sign, and then "You're Alive" came up today.
Whoa.
Praise God.
Whoa.
These ads, guys, they give us ads on our own videos. This is our video, and they give us ads on it. What's up with YouTube? How can you give us ads on our own video?
Yeah. So she basically
That's the vessel.
she basically had a dream of Jesus, okay? And then she asked him for a sign, and that's when she saw God Logic's channel come as a suggestion. And you can watch the entire video yourself after this, but I just want to get to the point where she asked us what to do. And that's the part that I really love now looking back. So
Because this is going to come up in just a minute. So, yeah.
that how they will get it. He comes to every person in a different way.
As the vessel.
Yeah, as a vessel. So sometimes it will come to you through a dream. I prayed for a dream and all that, but that wasn't the way into me. I didn't need that, so Jesus didn't come to me that way. But you had the dream, which is incredible.
It's a blessing.
It's
yeah.
a blessing to see Jesus himself. Like, wow. But it's probably what you needed. Can I ask you, have you prayed? Like, have you asked Jesus?
And that was my next question, because I also heard Christians say that if you call for him, he will answer you.
Now, guys, keep this part in your mind. This is what you want to keep in your mind. This discussion right here. Remember this.
Okay.
How do you, what do you mean call for him? Like, hello, Jesus? How
Yeah,
do
like,
you-
just like you're speaking to me now.
That's it.
Yeah, well, I tell you what I did. I was in a room by myself. In fact, the whole house was empty. I chose it that way. And then the man that said to speak to Jesus said to get on your knees. So I got on my knees. And when I did, something in my heart opened, and it humbled me to the possibility that it could be true. Like, you need to put everything away, or your family, your pride, your upbringing, your language, your religion, Islam, all that. Because Islam fills you with like an identity, like a pride, like this is it, this is the truth, all that. You need to put all that to the side and just really ask as if you don't know, like you're a baby.
Humble.
Like very humble, like a child. And then just say, all I said was, Jesus, if you are like what Christians are saying, show me. And in that moment, well, I grew up with lots of bad emotions, feeling empty, feeling unfulfilled, feeling like trying to chase something that's missing. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then in that moment, that whole thing just went away. It was filled completely. It's like I never needed anything. I was in complete happiness and joy. It was like almost like being in heaven, I guess. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. I feel
And
exactly the same because I'm actually bicultural. I think you call it. My mom is an Arab. My dad is European who converted to marry my mom.
Okay, so that's what I asked her to do. We asked her to go and just speak to Jesus like you speaking to us now. And we heard that she called back, you guys,
This is yesterday's stream with God Logic.
to God Logics, and she said she did it. So I was so excited
Yeah,
to
guys.
hear about it.
So we wanted to play with for everybody. Play with you guys. Check it out.
Okay, check it out.
All right, so we have our first guest on the panel. We have Miriam here. How you doing, Miriam?
Hello.
Hello there.
Hi, I don't know if you remember me. I spoke to you when David and Jai and DOC were here.
Yes. Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
prayed for me.
Oh, wow. Yeah. How you doing?
I'm good. Sorry, I know it's not the topic. I just wanted to. You said you're invested now.
Yes, I am invested. So what you got for me?
So after our conversation, I took Jai. No, sorry. DOC is the woman. Yes. Her advice, and I just called to Jesus to reveal himself.
Wow.
Oh,
When we first heard this, guys, we just had tears pouring out of our eyes. Like, this is so beautiful. It gets even better, but it's like she is following up. This is like a month or something. Like, no,
yeah,
wait, when did we do that video?
maybe a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. So
Yeah, maybe a couple.
we
of weeks
posted
ago.
that video about a month ago. So yeah, it's gonna be around like a month ago. Wow. So she followed up a month later, and
Let's see.
she called it to Jesus.
Yeah.
And then I had some few more dreams and something personal that I've been praying for for years came true.
Yeah.
Which I didn't even ask him for that. You know, I just wanted to see if he's gonna reply.
Yeah.
And that just shocked me.
Wow. Oh,
And
glory to God.
of course, my mom, she knew about this, and she said that it's just temporary, and that although it's a good thing for me, that Allah will ruin it somehow.
You guys remember she mentioned that her mom was an Arab Muslim, so that's why she said that.
I can't believe. Well, I know he's faithful. He always answers. He answered her.
He answered her, guys.
He answered her. I'm just so happy that we have such a faithful God that we tell people just come to him, just ask him, and he's always there. He's always ready. He never God, the real God never lets you down, really. And that's what happened with Miriam. We're very happy for her. She did say later on here that she left Islam and she calls it a cult. We just thank God so much for. We thank God so much for God Logic and his platform. So you guys keep praying for him, because obviously God used him, and keep praying for Miriam. She is now in the Lord.
Praise God.
She's a baby. So we wanted to put out a message out for her. If you want to get back in touch with us and speak back with us, or if you want to read the Bible with us, or take your first few steps in faith with us, or ask questions or anything that you need, I want you to email us. Okay? When I said baby, I meant a baby in the faith, because when we first come to the Lord, he said that we are born again. So it's like a baby being born.
And we're talking about babes. Actually, that language is used in the Bible, babes, like feeding on milk and stuff. So
Yeah, so she does need the believers around her, and sometimes it's difficult to find teaching and someone who will sit with you, have that time. And we have that time if you want to take it, Miriam. Please have someone put our contact email in the chat, and we'll put it in our description if Miriam wants to come and email us.
Yeah, so if you guys ever see her with God Logic, you know, or something like that, if you guys write in the comments or something like that, or write in the comments of that video, she goes and sees it, that'd be great. She can get in touch with Daughter of Christ, and we have like a growing group of ex-Muslims for Jesus. It's
I
really
have
beautiful.
a list.
She has a list, guys.
And
She
I'm
has
gonna
a
add
list.
her to the list. The list is about
It's getting long.
maybe about 30 or 40 people so far.
It's getting long. Yeah.
Miriam is the latest on the list. So Miriam, if you want to get in touch with me, I'm already in touch with a few ladies, ex-Muslims who've come to the Lord Jesus. We can do a Bible study if you ladies want to do it. We can read the Bible together and start together, I guess. You know, just learning your faith.
All right.
All
That's awesome.
Praise God. So that's
yeah,
the news we had for you guys.
Yes, we hope to hear from her, and that'd be great. But guys, we wanted to share that with you. Keep her in your prayers. Keep our brother Avery in your prayers. Avery's wife, his family, his ministry. Praise God. And it's just so beautiful, so amazing. We're so happy.
When did I start the list? About a month ago. So God is moving. God is moving really in a big way. I didn't expect it to have that many people this soon into this new channel, but it has.
It's been really rapid.
So any comment that we see on our videos, someone saying that I've come to the Lord, I put them on that list. That list is to pray, because these people need a lot of prayer. They come, they know almost nothing about the Lord except that he just saved them. They are in a harsh environment of people hating the Lord, even in their own family, in their own house. But you know what I've noticed in that list? A lot of them are women.
Yeah.
There are some men, but a lot are women. The women are probably outnumbering the men, which is strange because women are the ones that
Islam calls half brain and
he
stuff.
calls all kinds of names, and now Islam probably crumbled because of them. So
beautiful.
Well, praise God. Yeah, I just
yeah.
I really want to keep in touch with these ladies.
Amen.
All right,
guys. So we're gonna just play our intro song one more time. We're gonna do a quick. What's up?
There's another one.
Where's that?
Right here.
Oh, we just saw another comment now.
I used to be Muslim. Oh wow.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm gonna add you to the list.
You're gonna be added to the list.
I don't know if you're new or left Islam a long time ago. In fact, I used to be a Hafiz, he says, studied the Qur'an and Bukhari. Best thing I've ever done to leave Islam. I am a man that left Islam. Okay.
See in the Lord.
Yeah, so praise God.
Wow.
So much evil in Islam.
Is he in the Lord now? We hope that he's
Are you in the Lord now,
yeah.
Big Zam?
Well, we keep you in our prayers either way, just either way.
Yeah, either way,
we just know how to pray for you if you are in the Lord now. So,
awesome.
Or if you're not. So
See, I don't know that name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
We'll write that one. We'll screenshot that one or write it down. Okay.
Praise
All
God.
right. So, guys, we're going to do a transition now to our second part of the stream today, and it'll just be me, and we'll see you on the next stream, right? We'll see you on the next stream.
Yeah, we'll see you on the after this transition.
Right.
While I go and write Miriam's name on the list.
Okay.
All right.
24%, 24%. Your child is gonna become an apostate. Your child is gonna become an apostate. 24%, 24%. Your child is gonna become an apostate. Your child is gonna become an apostate.
One of the more shocking things that I have experienced over the course of those years are the number of young boys and girls who have openly declared their apostasy to me.
24%, 24%. Your child is gonna become an apostate. Your child is gonna become an apostate.
All right, guys. So we wanted to share that praise report with you guys, and you guys got 24% twice in one day. sometimes in the comments, which we really appreciate you guys' comments. It just helps with the algorithm quite a bit. And when you guys hit the like, and when you like the stream, and when you comment, and when you guys contribute like that, it really helps the algorithm. So YouTube like spreads it. And I noticed that one of the comments that's reoccurring is the intro song. So that is Spinning Remixes intro song. He did that, and this is like a kind of a remix version of his song that we found on David Wood's channel, one of his old videos. So, all right, guys, this is just going to be me now. We'll have Daughter of Christ back with us on the next stream. And I saw a comment here. King Servant said that he's the other fellow with Mel in the thumbnail. So I'm guessing he's this guy right here. This is King Servant. King Servant right here. So, all right. So, guys, this is Mel, and this is, I believe, King Servant. He's in the chat right now. And we are going to be reviewing part of this discussion. It was like a long discussion that I think was clipped, and we're going to play like just a portion of that discussion. So, how many of you guys know this? I don't know him really, other than he's like he goes by like Yemeni Muslim or something like that. You guys know him? I don't know if he's like popular or not. It's this guy right here in the corner. Yemeni Muslim or Yemenites or something like that. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with him or not. I don't. I'll tell you how I know of him. This is how I know of him. Right here. I became familiar with this guy through this video here. So just kind of, if you guys are curious, this is a clip of him that Chris from Speaker's Corner had posted on his channel.
Today we're going to be talking about a Muslim missionary who goes to Speaker's Corner quite frequently, who just made death threats to a whole bunch of people. Let's watch the clip.
Understand something. This is Yemenite Front, okay? I want these Christians to understand something. If you want to be vulgar like this, understand that I can say 1,000 things that will hurt you to your core. And not only that, I have no issue in threatening your life.
Yo, what? So that's who this guy is. Now, I would have never guessed that this is how he talked to people when I saw that video. I saw that video with Mel and with King Servant, and I wouldn't have guessed that this is how this guy talks. One more time, though.
Cool. And not only that, I have no issue in threatening your life. Physically, realistically, not hypothetically. Okay? Understand this. I'm a Muslim. If you blaspheme against my God and my prophet, then that will be met with serious circumstances, which is why you only do it from behind a screen. And yes, Chris, when you're saying in the back chat, bro, just threaten people. Yes, I did just threaten people. You know?
Yo, what? Yeah, so that's this guy. That's this guy. This is, I guess he said his name is Yemenite Front. Yemenite Front. Okay. And he's this really tough jihadi guy behind the screen. And we're going to see him now performing at Speaker's Corner. We'll see how he does. But that was my only exposure to him, was that. And like I said, I would have never guessed that this is like his conduct at Speaker's Corner. You would never, I mean, I didn't get that impression when I saw this. But that's the only way I've known of him. Yeah. Like this comment here, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah. So pretty crazy stuff. So let's get started in the video. The video link is posted in the description if you guys want to watch the original thing. It's 24 minutes and 27 seconds. We're going to get started at about 13 and a half minutes or so in the debate, and we're going to comment from there. So without further ado, let's get started.
Let's grant you another load. Okay.
So by the way, guys, this is Mel here in the white. That's Mel. And I believe this is King Servant in the chat, if I understood correctly.
I'm going to grant you, even though I don't believe it, but I'm going to grant you that Abu Bakr wrote it on a parchment, right? Is that fair? I'll grant you that. How come it wasn't preserved? Why can't we find this manuscript? Like, surely that would be, the first one should have been kept, because that would have been like today you could have full confidence this is actually from the time.
No, because even today...
We don't like it easy. We like to make it complicated.
No, because even today, when we have those who print the Qur'an in the factories,
Yeah.
do you know how the text of the Qur'an? Do you know how it comes to be today?
So he's about to go off into another topic. This is typical of the Muslims doing the dawah dodge, and just to bring up what Mel's referencing. Just to bring up what Mel's referencing here, this is a hadith in Abu Bukhari, and I'll post the links in the chat. There's going to be a lot of links today, guys, so a lot of material that we're going to be covering. So if you guys like these kind of streams where it's like not super dense, but we're going to kind of go into a little bit of depth, you'll like this one today. Or if you're, hopefully you guys will all enjoy it, but that's what kind of stream we're thinking about doing today. That's what I'm planning on, unless something happens that I'm not expecting. So this is a hadith here. You have Abu Bakr sending out Zayd. Why? Because a large number of casualties happened in the Battle of Yamama. Now, the Battle of Yamama, this is a big battle. Yamama. People make jokes about this. Like, they say, like, yo mama jokes. So... but yeah, it's the Battle of Yamama. The Battle of Yamama. No. El Yamama. And there were so many people who died in this battle that Abu Bakr asked Zayd to compile the Qur'an, because a great number of the readers of the Qur'an were killed in this battle, the Battle of Yamama. Just joking. Yamama. So, and because of that, this caused great, grief for Zayd. He was like, what? He felt conflicted. He said, like, how dare I do something which Allah's messenger did not do? How dare I do something which Allah's messenger did not do? So he knew that this is what Muslims call a bid'ah, or innovation, and they ended up convincing him. Allah apparently opened his chest, whatever that's supposed to mean. Allah opened his chest, and then that changed his mind. He ended up compiling the Quran for Abu Bakr. Now, the question that Mel had was, what happened to this? What happened to this copy of the Quran? So, according to the Muslim tradition, the Quran is made in Abu Bakr's, caliphate and his era where he's the Khalifa, and then it's passed on to the next Khalifa, Omar, and then it doesn't go from Omar to Uthman. It goes from Omar to his daughter Hafsa, who is one of the wives of Muhammad, the one who caught Muhammad in her bed on her day with Maria, the Copts. And so that's their version of what happened to this Mus'haf, to this copy of the Quran. This is also recorded in... It's also recorded... Some more details are recorded in Ibn Abi Dawud's book of the Mus'hafs, or the codices of the Quran. And this is the Arabic here. Everyone's interested in the Arabic, you can screenshot that, take a screenshot of that if you want to, but I'll give you guys the translation for it. So this is the translation, and this is quite interesting. What Muslims say happened to this Mus'haf. What happened to the copy of the Quran that Abu Bakr assigned Zayd to make and compile? This is what happened. So this is the story where you have this war that's going on for the invasion of Azerbaijan and Armenia, and they discussed the Quran and differed over it until almost a fitna, like a trial or temptation or something really serious, arose between them. So between the Muslims, they're differing about the Quran, and it became a fitna for them. It became a fitna for them. And then this is, when Hudayfa says that the people have differed over the Quran. By Allah, I fear what befell the Jews and the Christians of differing will befall them. So the fear of the Muslims was so strong that they approached Uthman, who was the leader at the time, and they said, look, we're differing over the Quran so much that I'm afraid that the differences between the Jews and the Christians is going to be between the Muslims. So some Muslims are going to have this version of the Quran, some Muslims are going to have this version of the Quran, some are going to have this version of the Quran, and it's going to be like Jews and Christians. So that's, I mean, you wonder how much of that is like hyperbole or how much of that is like actually serious, because if you think about it, the Jews have the Hebrew Bible, plus they have other things that they consider to be canonical, like, for example, the Talmud and things like that. And then the Christians, we do have the Hebrew Bible, and we also have the New Testament. So we're talking about completely different books and completely different canons, right, between Jews and Christians. Like, you're talking about one of them has Old Testament, one of them has Old Testament and New Testament. And they're saying, we're afraid we're going to differ like they differed. So this is pretty significant. So Uthman, it says he was greatly alarmed. He was greatly alarmed by that. So he sent for Hafsa. Now, why did he go to Hafsa? Like I said, Abu Bakr had ordered Zayd to compile the Quran according to the tradition. I'm not saying this is historically accurate or anything, but I'm just saying this is what Muslims believe. Or this is an account of what at least some Muslims believe. I gotta be careful with my language. And so what happened was Abu Bakr passed it to Omar. Omar passed it to his daughter Hafsa. And now you have the next leader who is trying to get that Quran. So it says, Uthman was greatly alarmed, so he sent for Hafsa and extracted the sheet which Abu Bakr had ordered Zayd to gather, the Quran. So he had copies made from it and sent them to the different lands. Now, when Marwan, who is the Amir or the leader of Al-Madinah, he sent to Hafsa asking about the manuscripts so he could burn them. Guys, Marwan wanted to burn the copy of the Quran that Abu Bakr had compiled through Zayd that is now in Hafsa's possession. So he's like, let me burn that, because, Mel was asking, what happened to this Abu Bakr's Quran? Well, the Muslims, this is not what the Yemeni guy said, but this is what their tradition says. The tradition says that he wanted to burn Hafsa's, which is Abu Bakr's Quran. Why did he want to do that? Because he fearing that some of the scribes would differ from others. So they were so scared of the differences between the Qur'ans that they wanted to burn this copy that Hafsa had in possession, which was Abu Bakr's. But she prevented him from doing that, right? From obtaining them. So Hafsa stepped in and she's like, no, you're not going to take this Quran. I got it from my father. I'm one of Muhammad's wives. You don't just take the Quran from me and burn it. What are you thinking? You're just going to burn my Quran? And so check this out. When Hafsa died, Marwan urged Abdullah bin Umar strongly to send him, it's implied there, like talking about the manuscripts, the copy of the Quran there, as soon as they return from Hafsa's funeral. So guys, imagine she dies, and the first thing this guy's thinking is, I want to get that Quran so I can destroy it. So Abdullah bin Umar, he sent them to Marwan, and then Marwan spread them out, like the papers, he spread them out and burned them, fearing that there might be differences in them from what Uthman compiled. So this is the preservation of the Quran, guys. This is the reference here, the book of the different codices of the Quran by Ibn Abi Dawood. It's on page 93 on the online, the digital version on Al-Maktab Al-Shamila. And you can, see the previous link if you want to look at the Arabic. And so, yeah, that's what happened to the Quran of Abu Bakr, according to their sources. So this is the great preservation of the Quran. the great preservation of the Quran, where they're burning all these copies of the Quran because they're so scared that people are going to be thrown off by the differences. Oh no, there's differences. People are going to be, like, and so the way they do is they tried their best to burn all the copies that they could. So, yeah. All right. Let's see. So, when you guys hear us talking about Hafs Quran, the Hafs reading of the Quran, this is different from Hafsa. Hafsa was one of the wives of Muhammad. She's the daughter of Omar, and Hafs is a reader of the Quran, or he's a transmitter of one of the readers that came much later. So Hafs and Hafsa. Okay. All right. I'll try to see if I see any questions or anything like that. I'll try to address the questions. I do apologize if I miss any though. Yeah. So, all right, let's continue.
Yeah.
Do you know how the text of the Quran? Do you know how it comes to be today?
I didn't hear that. Sorry.
Sorry.
Say it again.
How the text of the Quran? How does the text of the Quran today come to be in the pages that we have? So if I open an Arabic Quran today, how does that come to be in my hands today?
You tell me. You tell me.
Right. You have the calligraphers, right? Because obviously it's all calligraphy. They would write it, right? So it's not printed. It's not on the computers. It's written by hand. Okay. Every single letter and dot and tashkil and everything. It's all written by hand. Then it is sent to who? A memorizer. The memorizers then check it. So it's actually the text is fact checked by those who memorize.
Can I ask you a question?
So, different countries have different processes for printing the Quran. So I think what he's talking about is maybe like in Saudi Arabia, for example, the specific process he laid out, which is similar in other parts of the world, Muslim world, but they do differ in certain details. And basically, because he's not really communicating it too clearly, he doesn't mean that every single copy of the Quran is handwritten. What he means is I think it takes like 3 or 4 years to write an entire Quran by hand, like with in the script and adding the dots and the vowel marks and everything. It takes about 3 to 4 years. And then what they do is they go through a committee, and this is not like something special or unique that like Islam has monopoly or something like that. Like if you're familiar with like Jewish practices, for example, if you go to a synagogue, the Torah scroll, for example, is going to be handwritten, and they check them over with different scribes. And if there's one letter that's wrong in a Torah scroll, then they can't use it in the synagogue, right? And you have not exact, but you have like a similar process of, for example, like in the Greek Orthodox Church, you have an ecumenical text that was printed in like the I think in 1904, early 1900s, and it was approved by the ecumenical patriarch. And so there's a process that these texts go through, and not just Islam, but in different religions as well, where you have so he's trying to make it. I think he's trying to make Islam sound unique here or something special, when it's just someone writes the Quran and then people check it over, and then once they check it over, they digitize it, and once they digitize it, then it's mass printed, right? According to some countries, that's how they do it. I think that's probably the most countries how they do it. I mean, it's not like a topic that I've spent much time on, but from what I've read, that's usually how it's done. Maybe not in that exact order. Maybe there's a couple more details, but yeah, it's not too different than, like, say, like if you go to a synagogue and you see like a handwritten, Torah scroll or something like that, where you have scribes and Jewish scribes who check them over, and they make sure that all the letters are good, all the vowels are good, everything's all good. So that doesn't really tell us anything about the preservation of the Quran. It just tells us how people handle the Quran today. So I'm not really sure why he dodged the question about what happened to Abu Bakr's Quran, and he started talking about how it is that you have Qurans today. So anyway, let's see what Mel responds with.
The
Okay.
text is fact checked by those who memorize.
Can I
the
ask you a question just on that
And then
before we?
So I see a question here. What do they say about who and when they added the diacritical marks? Actually, that comes up in this discussion. The diacritical marks comes up. So if you stick around, you will see that part coming up.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have 100% confidence in the memorizers?
Yes.
Okay. Were there ever variants in the written text, whether it be
Yes.
vowelization?
Yes.
So how come the memorizers didn't pull them up on that then?
Because it depends. Like today, are you talking about today or back then?
Back then.
Right. Back then, with regards to the Ottomanic Rasm, okay, there were 4 copies sent out to the empire.
Okay.
The reason for 4 copies and not 1 copy is because there were differences in the skeletal text to allow for the different readings.
You're talking about difference in skeleton text. That's actually quite a big difference. Not just so you're not just talking about vocalization. You're actually not.
Yeah.
You're saying not only in terms of pronunciation. You're actually saying there's actually a fundamental difference between those 4. So if one person read one, they would get a different meaning to the second one, the third one, the fourth one,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So which one is the correct one then?
All of them.
All of them?
Yeah.
So if I told you 4 different stories, are these stories the same?
No, not 4 different stories.
No,
With
but I'm
regards
just
to-
using as a parallel.
Yeah, but that's not a parallel. That's
Okay,
one.
go on. Okay, fair
So,
enough.
for example, I'll give the most famous example.
Okay, before it goes into this most famous example, I want to show you a variant that existed in the time of, the companions of Muhammad, according to their tradition. And you can find the reference here. I'm going to show you guys the Arabic, and if you are interested in the Arabic, like maybe you can read Arabic or you want to share it with someone who reads Arabic, you can screenshot this. This is the original reference here, but I'm going to put the translation on the screen now. So show you something about variants in the text and what early Muslims said. So Ibn Abbas, who Muhammad prayed over, and Ibn Abbas said that Muhammad prayed over him that he would give him the proper interpretation of the Quran. And so let's see what he says about these early manuscripts of the Quran, and whether or not Muslims thought that they could contain mistakes or not. So Ibn Abbas, he's quoting from, I should have put the reference here. Hold on. Let me just put this reference in real quick. It's in chapter 13, verse 31. Okay? In chapter 13, verse 31, Ibn Abbas read it as, has it not been made clear to them? Has it not been made clear to them? And the way that the Quran has it today is, have they not despaired? Have they not despaired? So if you can read, you don't even need to be able to read Arabic to see the differences here. This is one word here, yatabayyin, and then yayas. So this is these are the 2 words here. One of them means to make clear, and the other one means to despair. So has it not been made clear to them? Have they not despaired? And what did he say? He said the scribe wrote it while he was sleepy. The scribe wrote it while he was sleepy. So Ibn Abbas is saying that the way that the Quran is today, every single Quran, you're going to find this reading in it for chapter 13, verse 31. Every single Quran says that. And he said that that's actually a mistake that the scribe made. And he made that mistake because he was sleepy. He was drowsy. And the ruling for the grade of the hadith is that it's authentic. There's an authentic hadith. And all of the narrators are people that Al-Bukhari used. they're all authentic narrators that al-Bukhari used. And the scholar who graded it is Ibn Hajar. So there's the reference here, the source and the page number. And like I said, the Arabic, I already showed the Arabic. Okay, so the idea that the early Muslims, now today, he's giving you today's perspective. Like, this is what Muslims today say. Muslims today. But back then, Ibn Abbas was like, no, there's scribal errors in the Quran, and scribes just made mistakes. And, and so he would read it differently. And there's more than that too. Like, I could have given many examples, but I, just for the sake of time, I only gave one, because this is suffice to make the points that you have Muslim scholars, companions. He's called like the scholar of the Muslim nation, the scholar of the Ummah of Islam. And he's saying that the way the Quran's written today has a spelling mistake, a corruption, because the scribe was sleepy. What a joke. And the Muslims today are like, oh, no, it's not, don't trust him, trust me. Don't trust Ibn Abbas, trust me. All right. And he mentioned that when Uthman had made this, new Quran, that this Quran was sent out to, there were 4 copies that were made. 4 copies that were made. Now I'm gonna share a book from someone called Ahmed Ali Al-Imam, and he wrote a book called The Variant Readings of the Quran, and it has all the sources and references in it. So I figure instead of going to all the different references, because there's like tons of sources, I figure I go to a Muslim scholar, like a more recent Muslim scholar, and show what they say. Is it true that Uthman had made 4 copies? 4 copies. Well, we'll see what he says. So here's, if you go to page 19 in his book, page 19, we're not going to read the whole thing, of course, but it says the number of copies sent to the cities and provinces is not specified in the old sources. Okay? It's not specified in the old sources. What al-Bukhari says is that Uthman sent a copy to every Muslim province. Okay? All the Muslim provinces received a copy. But how many provinces did he send them to? They don't know. So it says many primary or secondary sources do not mention the exact number of copies. Later on, reference is made to 4 copies. Now that's what the Yemeni Muslim just said, or whatever his name is, Yemenite Front, whatever he goes by. He said there are 4 copies, right? That's what he says. But other scholars say there's 5 copies. 5 copies. And even when you start mentioning like, okay, there's 5 copies, the scholars can't agree on what these provinces are. So one scholar here says 5 copies, another one here says 5 copies, but they don't agree on the location. So you look at, Kufa, Basra, Yemen, Bahrain, etc., and then the one for Uthman's personal use. That's one set of 5. Another one is Mecca, Damascus, Basra, Kufa, Medina. So they can't actually agree on what the 5 provinces are, even the ones who say 5. And then other scholars say there were 6 copies. 6 copies. Other scholars say that Uthman sent 7 copies. 7 copies. 7 copies. Okay? And it goes on and on and on. 8 copies. 9 copies. So Muslims, it goes anywhere from 4 copies to 9 copies. And I've even seen higher numbers than that, but that's just what's mentioned in this book. All that to say is that when these Muslims talk like with such confidence, like they have this we have this vast knowledge from our sources and from our Islamic sciences, and you look at their great sources, so-called, right? You look at their so-called great sources, and you ask yourself, are they saying what the Muslims say? And most of the time, you're going to find out that the Muslim is taking one narrative. He's taking one narrative, just one of the narratives, and he's making it sound like that's like the standard. So, yeah, there is a tradition that says 4, but there's also a tradition that says 9. And it's like a more of a minor point, but it just leads to a larger issue that these Muslims like to present what they say as factual and like, you know, oh, just trust me, bro. But really, when you look into it, you see that it's not the thing. Yeah. I rest my case. Exactly. Like, let me put that comment up here real quick. I rest my case. Yeah.
God never said that.
God said that in the Qur'an.
I rest my case.
I rest my case. Yes. All right. Let's continue on.
Yeah, but that's not parallel. That's
Okay,
fine.
go on. Okay, fair
So,
enough.
for example, I'll give the most famous example in chapter 1.
Yeah.
We have Malik and Malik. Okay,
Yeah.
that is the difference in the text and the meaning. Okay, now Malik means owner. Malik means king.
Right.
All right. Now, if one person,
Wow, so he's actually admitting that there's a meaning difference there. So most of the time, Muslims will tell you that, oh, it's just dialect. It's just like someone saying, you know, like water and someone saying water, right? It's like someone, you know, saying, how are you? And then someone else saying, hey, what's up? Like, that's what they mostly say. But now he's actually admitting that there is a meaning difference here. Chapter 1, verse 4, that there's a meaning difference. So this is chapter 1, verse 4. Maliki Yawmiddin, which means owner of the day of judgment. And then Maliki Yawmiddin. So the difference is like Malik with a long A vowel, Malik, and then Malik with a short A, like a, short A vowel. And so the difference between that is owner and king. Owner and king. Yeah, they say tomato, tomato, right? That's what tomato, tomato. No, he's actually admitting now that this is a meaning difference. All right, let's see.
means owner, Malik means king.
Right.
All right. Now, if one person, if he's reading king and you're reading owner, yes, you'll get in different meanings, but they are complementary because Allah is the king of the heavens and the earth, and He's the owner of the heavens and the earth. So the meanings, the differences in meanings in the readings of the text, which originate from the Prophet peace be upon him, and taught to the companions, they are complementary.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Now, the majority of the variances. All right. So he says that they're complementary of each other. Complementary of each other. Okay. So there's a lot to say about this. And if we go to the early Muslim scholars, like, for example, if we go to At-Tabari in the 10th century, this is, again, the Arabic for those interested in the Arabic, chapter 1, verse 4. And you can start here and just keep going all the way. Really, it goes on for quite a while. Anyway, I'm not exactly sure where it ends, but it goes on for quite a while. And I'll just go to a specific part that is translated here for everybody. And this is, I believe it's Shadi Nasr. Yeah, translation of Shadi Nasr. Okay, that's great. So check this out. So he's saying that the reading of king and the reading of owner just complement each other. But if you go to the early Muslims, is that what they said? Did they say, oh, they just complement each other? Allah's king and he's owner. And by the way, I have something further to say about that. And I want to get your guys' feedback on this because I think there's a problem with that as well. But At-Tabari said, in my opinion, so in the Arabic, when I showed, like, it says Abu Ja'far, that is At-Tabari. So that's why I didn't want to, in case just any confusion or anything like that. This is what he said. He said, in my opinion, the more appropriate justification that suits the interpretation of the verse is the first one. The first one. So how he lays it out is he gives the first one as in the king of the day of judgment and owner of the day of judgment. So he's saying that the reading of the king is the more correct reading. As-sahhu, the more correct one. So you're familiar with the word sahih? Sahih. This is as-sahhu. So this is the superlative form, which is like correct, more correct, or most correct. It can be superlative, or it can be the comparative. It can be the most correct, or it can be comparative, like more correct. So he says you could translate it either way, honestly, but he went with more correct here. So more correct to be used in recitation is Malik, with the meaning of king, sovereign. So then he goes on to make an argument here, and he gives you an argument. Why would you take this reading over the other reading? And what he says here is that it's known that every king is an owner. Whereas an owner, the other reading, which Muslims recite today in their prayer, 95% of the Muslims recite in their prayers for chapter 1, verse 4, multiple times a day, he says that this reading owner does not necessarily mean he's a king. Right? So everybody that's a king is automatically an owner, but not everybody that's an owner is necessarily a king. So he's saying that the better reading, the more correct reading is king. Notice he's not saying Muhammad said it like this and Muhammad said it like that. And this is why I go with this reading, because this one goes back to Muhammad. This is the chain that goes back to him. That's not what he says. He's giving you logical arguments for why this variant is superior to the other variants. And he could outright reject certain variants because in his time, if he had lived another generation or so, one of his, some people say that Ibn Mujahid was a student of Al-Tabari. There's some debate there, from historians or whatever, but he's possibly a student of Al-Tabari. But Ibn Mujahid was one of the ones who canonized. He did one of the canonizations of these readings of the Qur'an, and he punished people by the rule of the government if they rejected his readings. And I'm going to get more into that in a little bit. But he could, in Al-Tabari's time, he could more freely reject some of these readings of the Quran without facing any sort of punishment, because there weren't governments ruling in power who were putting you in prison or whipping you, lashing you if you rejected certain readings, right? So again, he calls this the more correct reading. That's right. The more correct reading is the first one there, the first reading, which is the reading of King. And he goes on to say that it's a mistaken oversight to think that God saying, praise belongs to God, the Lord of beings, provides information of his ownership in this world and not in the thereafter, or the hereafter, the thereafter, the next world. So he goes on he makes a very long argument, and he basically doubles down that the right reading is King. Now, you guys are going to hear this a lot from Muslims. You're going to hear a lot from Muslims that the reading of owner and the reading of King just complement each other, right? But I want to run this by you guys, because I was thinking about this recently. If I say that a general, like let's talk about like the army, like the U.S. Army or something, right? And I say this general is he's a soldier, right? Technically speaking, it's true that the general is a soldier, right? But the fact that you call him a general automatically encompasses that he's a soldier, right? If you're just using soldier in the sense that he's like, in the army, right? So if you just call this general a soldier, well, then you're not really giving him his full credit, right? Because general encompasses soldier, but soldier doesn't necessarily encompass general, right? So what I'm trying to say is, and I want to get you guys' feedback on this, is I don't think that these readings complement each other. I'll give you another example. If I say that the President of the United States of America, okay, he's a citizen of the United States of America, right? And I refer to the president as, he's a citizen of the United States of America. Well, that's true. He is a citizen of the United States of America. But if I call him the president, that automatically means he's a citizen. So one meaning, the greater meaning, automatically encompasses the lesser meaning. So I don't need to refer to a general as a soldier. I don't need to refer to a president as a citizen, because if he's already a general, he's a soldier. If he's already a president, he's a citizen. If I refer to what are some other examples? Maybe you guys can think of other examples of this. But like a Supreme Court judge. A Supreme Court judge is also a lawyer, right? So if I say this Supreme Court judge, this U.S. Supreme Court judge is a lawyer, it's true. This U.S. Supreme Court judge is a lawyer, but I don't need to call them a lawyer. That doesn't complement them in the meaning, because a Supreme Court judge in the U.S. is already a lawyer. Like, you have to be a lawyer. You're already a lawyer if you're a Supreme Court judge. So I don't see it as like complementary of each other, right? So somebody who's a king is automatically an owner, right? You don't need to call them an owner. Like, it doesn't seem to complement it at all. So this excuse that Muslims give, and they say that, this is complementary of each other, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Yeah. Yeah. Another example here. Yes. A nurse and a doctor are medical professionals, but a nurse is not a doctor. Exactly. Exactly. So the greater one already encompasses the lesser one, and it's not complimentary to say like, oh, this general is a soldier. Well, it's like, yeah, he's a general. Of course he's a soldier, but if you call him a general, you automatically already know that. So yeah, it's a cope. I agree. It's a cope. Yeah. All right. So there's that. And then let's tackle this question of like whether or not it's even true that do the readings complement each other? Like, do they contradict each other at all? So I want to like elaborate on that a bit more because I haven't really like I've thought about it, but I'm kind of just really saying it for the first time with you guys. So I want to be able to articulate that better. But that's basically my idea, that they're not complementing each other at all, right? They're not complementing each other at all. That's. But I want to be able to articulate that in better ways. So we'll work on that. But if you guys have any other examples of that, like where the greater meaning already encompasses the lesser meaning, so you don't need to say that, it's already implied, and that it's kind of redundant, then please do give those examples in the comments or in the live chat as well. I'll check it out later. So chapter 10 verse 16 in the Quran, chapter 10 verse 16. I'll give you guys the link for this. The link is here. I don't know if it's going to post the whole link in the chat. It's kind of like, oh, it's very long, but it's there. All right. So this is the Arabic, and we're going to look at two versions of the Quran. One of them, Hafs, not Hafsa, but Hafs. Okay. And then we're going to scroll down a little bit on the page, and we're going to look at Al-Bazi, and we're going to look at Qunbal. Okay. And we're going to put this up in a little bit of an easier format so that you can see them side by side and with the translation. So one of the readings says that Allah, that he would not have made it known to you. Allah, he would not have made it known to you. And then here's another reading. If we go by the Muslims, they're like, oh, they just complement each other. They give you the same meaning, or they give you complementary meanings or whatever. Well, let's see what this says. It says, he would have made it known to you. He would have made it known to you. Now, guys, the easiest way to make a contradiction is to just add a negation to a sentence. So, I have an apple. I do not have an apple. You can add on things like right now in the same time in the same sense, but right, just add a negation. That's the easiest way to make a contradiction, right? I have, black shoes. I do not have black shoes. Like you add a negation, right? So he would not have made it known to you, and he would have made it known to you. That is a contradiction. That is a contradiction. Now, I'm going to show you guys a commentary. If you guys want to check this out, a commentary, it's Al-Jalalain. And I'll give you guys the link for this as well. I didn't copy and paste it. Hold on. All right, there we go. So there's the link, guys. There's the link. All right. So, yeah, that's a good contradiction. The scribe was not asleep. The scribe was asleep, right? Exactly. Yeah, that's a good contradiction right there. Yeah, it's one or the other. So this is Al-Jalalain, and like I said, guys, there's many examples of contradictions across the readings we can give, but this is just for the sake of time. I want to give like maybe one example of each. So this commentary here, if you want to share this with your Muslim friends or colleagues or whoever you're talking to about this topic, and they say, and this topic comes up about the many different Qurans, and they say, hey, no, they're just different dialects. Or, well, first thing they're going to do is they're going to deny it. They're going to say that there's only one Quran. Then when you disprove that, they're going to say that they're going to say it's different dialects. And then when you disprove that, they're going to say, oh, they just complement each other. And so you kind of go through this long thing, and then eventually you get to the point where just show me a contradiction between them. So here it is. So even Al-Jalalain says here, there's the variant here, nor would he have made it known to you, right? And he talks about this being negation. He would have made it, he would have not made it known to you, nor would he have made it known to you. And then the variant reading says he would have made it known to you. Now, he goes on to give an explanation for how he thinks he can solve this dilemma or this contradiction. But the fact of the matter is that this contradicts this. Yellow contradicts green. Nor would he have made it known to you, and he would have made it known to you. And if you're interested to get like a outside perspective, like a non-Muslim and not a Christian perspective, there's this guy called Marijn van Putten, and you can get this book. I know it's very expensive. You get the hardback, 131 euros, but if you download the PDF, you get it for free. So if you guys are interested in reading about Quranic Arabic from Marijn van Putten's perspective, you can download this for free. Okay. Now, if you go to this book and you go to page 250, you see he talks about this variance. And he says he would have made it known to you, and nor would he have made it known to you. Right? And he doesn't talk about like how to solve this contradiction or anything, but this is just to show linguistically, on a linguistic level, that this is the variant reading. One of them says he would have made it known to you. The other one says nor would he have made it known to you. So he would make it known to you. He would not make it known to you. All right. So that is that. All right. Let's go back to the video. And yeah, let me put it back up here. So yeah, so we see a contradiction there, and we see that king and owner are not complementing each other in meaning. They don't complement each other. I'm sorry, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced Yemeni Muslim who likes to issue people death threats online. This is one of these tough jihadis behind the screen. So, but you see him in person. In person, he's like, very respectful, very humble, very gentle. But behind the screen, he's like issuing death threats. Anyway, that's very typical of Muslims, isn't it?
Complementary.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Now, the majority of the variances are differences in dialect, have no bearing on the meaning. But there are certain words where they have bearing on the meaning, as well as the text, as well as the form of the text.
Can I respond just a little bit? So let's grant you the 4, okay? It doesn't mean unbelievable. I'm just going to grant for the sake of talking. Okay. Okay. So we got 4, and and I like the idea of having extra nuance and meaning to it and so forth. So by that stage, after the 4, that's it, because the revelation has stopped. No one can add to the meaning of that text, right?
Now
just a yes or no. Can they add to it or not?
Not quite. It's a bit more nuanced than that even.
Okay.
It's a bit more nuanced than that. Maybe someone can add to the text. What a joke. And when you start talking about these Muslims about this topic, it's like, man, it's oof. So guys, I want to show you guys a link here. There's a link. You have to use the Wayback Machine to get it, because I don't think the website is live anymore. But if you guys click on this link, you'll see a bunch of examples of Hafs and then Warsh, which is the one that's used in Morocco, and this is the one that's used in the majority of the Muslim world. So yeah, this is printed. Yeah, so Algeria. This is the Warsh one printed in Algeria, but it's used in Morocco. You have like Qalun and other readings that are used in Algeria and Libya as well. So anyway, there's a whole bunch of different Qurans that Muslims use in the world today. But if you guys want just like a list, like a simple like one link go to show differences, we forgive, he forgives. They do, you do. You are not asked and do not ask. A poor person, poor people. And these are all the references are on the side. So if you want to look them up, and if Allah did not repel, and if Allah did not defend, and he pays them, and we pay them. They seek, you seek. So you can go on and on and on. They have a bunch of differences there, but these are a lot of the meaningful differences that can't be described away by just saying, oh, it's a dialect or, something like that. No, these are meaningful differences, and in some instances they actually change legal rulings. Like the ruling, this one here where it says poor person and poor people. This is about feeding people or a person when you miss a fast. When you miss a fast. So this is actually a legal variant. So it's very significant. You can't just say, oh, it's a dialect difference. No, singular and plural is not a dialect difference. This is a legal ruling where do you feed a poor person, or do you feed four people? Feed four. Sorry guys, I'm getting tongue tied. Do you feed poor people? Poor people. So this is an example of where you have a legal difference, a legal ruling, and yeah. So anyway, just wanted to quickly share that, and we'll get right back to the video here. So that's a couple of examples you can go to if you're curious to do that. Oh yeah, actually there's one other thing that I wanted to say. One more thing that I wanted to say. When it comes to dialects, different dialects, there's a book that As-Sayuti, which we just looked at the commentary from As-Sayuti, and you'll see Jalaluddin As-Sayuti, you'll see that he notes in his book, appealing to another scholar, and this is his book on the sciences of the Qur'an, like the masterful sciences on the Qur'an, expert, whatever, how you want to translate it. Itqan is like, having skills or proficiency or some kind of like expertise in the sciences of the Qur'an. You could translate like that. And he quotes one of the scholars, Abu Bakr, and in his book called the guidance in regard, or the guidance about the 10 readings of the Quran, the 10 qira'at. So he says, because Muslims like to bring up dialects a lot, so he's talking about in the language of the Quran, that the Quran is using 50 different Arabic dialects. Now, if you speak Arabic, you see the word lugha. Lugha here, it doesn't mean like language like we would say today, but in Arabic, but it'd be like lahja, like a dialect, right? So 50 dialects, guys, 50 Arabic dialects are used in the Quran according to this scholar. 50 Arabic dialects, and he lists them all here. All these different all these different dialects he lists, and and then he goes on to say that there's actually languages other than Arabic, Persian, Roman. So Roman here would refer to Greek, because you're talking about like the Roman Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire. Greek, Nabatean, Ethiopic language, like probably like in Ethiopia, a language called Ge'ez. Berber, like the Amazigh language, the language that's native to like Morocco, Algeria, etc. Syriac, Hebrew, Coptic, etc., etc., etc. So it's funny because when Muslims talk about like the 7 ahruf, which they have no idea what ahruf means, sometimes they'll say it's about 7 dialects, right? Well, pick which dialect you're talking about, because we have 50 Arabic dialects listed here, 50 Arabic dialects. Which of the 7 are you talking about? So whenever a Muslim says to you, oh, this is the dialect, this is dialect, this is dialect, well, which dialect? Pick the 7. And for the Muslim scholars through history who have said that the 7 ahruf are talking about dialects, they don't agree on what dialects. Kind of like when it comes to the provinces where Uthman sent the copies to, they don't agree on the number. Is it 4 provinces? Is it 5 provinces? Is it 6? Is it 7? Is it 8? Is it 9 provinces? They have no idea. So the great sciences of Islam, it's actually really funny because this is like the master class on the sciences of the Quran. And they have, 50, pick 7 out of the 50 dialects. They have no idea, guys. They have no idea. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because Muslims, they constantly bring up dialects. It's like, okay, let's entertain that. Which dialects? Which dialects? Yeah, 50 Arabic dialects in the Quran, and then foreign languages as well that are not even Arabic. So, I mean, like, technically speaking, like, in linguistics, you can refer to any kind of variation of a language as a language. This concept of a dialect in language doesn't really exist in linguistics. It's more of a political thing. For example, if you've ever been to like Serbia or Croatia or Bosnia or etc., like, they basically speak the same language, right? So Bosnian and Serbian are basically the same language, but they're like, but they call them different languages because of politics, right? People in the chat who might be from like India, like the Hindi and Urdu are basically the same language, right? They're basically the same language, but they're called different languages because, of political reasons. You have Pakistan and you have India. So there's political reasons, right? But then you have what are called like dialects, like in Chinese, for example, you have like Mandarin and Cantonese. Mandarin and Cantonese are considered dialects of Chinese, but they're not intelligible to each other. They're not mutually intelligible. So if you only speak Urdu and you meet someone who only speaks Hindi, you're going to understand basically everything you say. Maybe a couple, vocabulary differences here or there, but you're going to basically understand each other 99%, maybe. I don't know. Or if you're from Croatia or you're from Serbia or from Bosnia, right? But so they're all mutually intelligible, right? But when it comes to Chinese, because of political reasons, not because of linguistic reasons, we refer to Mandarin as a dialect of Chinese and Cantonese as a dialect of Chinese, even though they're not mutually intelligible. In Arabic, we refer to Moroccan as a dialect of Arabic, even though no one in the Arab world, like if you're from the Middle East, if you're from like anywhere in the Middle East, you're not going to understand Moroccan. So a guy from Saudi Arabia, and you put him in a room with someone from Morocco, they're not going to be able to understand each other at all. It's crazy, but technically they're called dialects of Arabic. So historically, there have been some Arabs who have tried to like fight to make like Lebanese into its own language, or fight to make Egyptian into its own language. But because Arabic is so, because it's tied, for Muslims, it's tied to Islam, they don't want to make like Egyptian as a separate language from, the Arabic in the Qur'an, or from the, Lebanese as a different, language than, it's like, even though you would have a really hard time, you could be 100% fluent in, let's say, Arabic spoken in Libya, and you can be 100% fluent in the Arabic spoken in Syria, and they're technically called dialects of the same language, but you put them in a room together and they can't understand each other at all. They can't understand each other at all. And those are considered dialects of the same language. But yet you put someone in a room from, India and from Pakistan, and one of them speaks Urdu, one of them speaks Hindi, and they can understand each other perfectly. So this difference of like language and dialect, it's something that exists because of politics, like socio-political issues. But in linguistics, the science of linguistics, this distinction doesn't really exist. There's a concept of mutual intelligibility, and that's something else. But this concept of like language and dialects, it's not really entertained. It's more of a political thing. There's actually a famous quote by a linguist that says that a language is a dialect with an army and a navy. A language is a dialect with an army and a navy. So it's political. All right. So let's continue on.
All right. So that's the thing. Yeah. So the history of the Quran is very.
So just to point out, if there's any extra meaning, it's from human agency, not by divine agency, right?
No. It's all by divine agency. All of it's by divine agency.
So Muhammad isn't the final prophet then?
Let me explain.
Are they prophets as well?
Let me explain. Okay.
I see our brother Sunday Speakers Corner here. Shout out to Sunday Speakers Corner. Especially when God Logic was in London and Speakers Corner, I was tuning into your channel a lot. I think that's how I learned about your channel. God bless you. And you said that last Sunday at Speakers Corner, Arabic reader challenged by Jude with different recitations of Quran. Oh, okay. You know what? Maybe that's something that we'll have to check out as well. Yeah, I love when this topic comes up. It allows us to kind of get into it. And as you guys can tell, I like to kind of like nerd out a little bit on this topic because I just have like such a passion for language, and this topic really, it ties in a lot of my passions together. The passion to reach out to the Muslims, this, a heart to reach out to the Muslim people and evangelism. And also I have like a heart for like language and linguistics and stuff. And so this kind of like ties in these passions together, like, so it's one thing that I really like to go to talk. So I'll definitely check that out. I'll check out your channel and check that out. All right, let's continue on.
Divine agency, right?
No. It's all by divine agency. All of it's by divine agency.
So Muhammad isn't the final prophet then?
Let me explain.
Are they prophets as well?
Let me explain. Okay. Now, when within these four, because if we look at four texts, four manuscripts of Qur'an, then we might say, people might think, oh well, then there should only be 4 copies that are spread throughout the world, but it's not the case. There's 10.
We've gone from 4 to 10.
I know that, but there's 10 that we read today, right? There used to be 40.
Hey, I mean, we still got about 33, 37. Right?
There used to be more than 40.
So he's saying there used to be 40. I got a surprise for this guy, Yemeni Muslim. I got a surprise for him.
There used to be 40, right? Because there is a book called...
Depends who you ask. Like,
No. This is established within our own Qur'an.
Doesn't sound very convincing, but...
So I don't know if King Servant is still here, but he's actually 100% correct. It does depend on who you ask. But we'll see.
I mean, Yasser Qadi argues 25.
I don't care about you. I don't care about Yasser.
I know, you love him so much.
I don't care about
Holds in the narrative.
There's no authority on the Quran.
I mean, some people say up to 350. I don't even.
No.
I think that's too low.
No. There is a book, I can't remember, but it mentions of Al-Qira'at al-Ashr wal-Arba'in al-Za'ida. Okay? This is a book that establishes that there was 50 qira'at at one point in history. Today we read 10. Okay? 10 qira'at. So the 10 qira'at, how did they come from the 4 manuscripts, the 4 sahaf? Because none of these sahaf had the...
All right, so before we get into that, let's show another quote here. Another quote, and I'm going to give you guys the source, the link here in Arabic. Here you go. And this is from a scholar called Mekki al-Qaisi. Mekki al-Qaisi. And this is about the clarity or clarification on the meanings of the different readings of the Quran, qira'ats. And this is the quote here in Arabic for any Arabs that are here who are interested in the Arabic, or if you, like I said, if you talk to Arab Muslims and you want to just jot these references down, then this is it here, and you can screenshot that. I also give the link as well. I'll give the translation though for it. So here he notes that in the initial 7 readings of the Quran that were canonized by Ibn Mujahid, that Mekki al-Qaisi said that people have mentioned in their books more than 70 readers who are of higher rank and more virtuous than these 7. So forget about 7, forget about 10, forget about 40. He was saying that, okay, people were acknowledging that there's 7, but there's more than 70 who are better than those 7. So 70 plus 7, we have 77 right now. And then what about all the ones that are equal to or lesser rank? And that's when you start getting into the hundreds. That's when you start getting into the hundreds. So there are many readings of the Quran that have existed historically, and here's an instance where we have at least 77 here. And then like I said, you can also, in the same book, you can count how many were considered maybe equal to the 7, and how many were considered like lesser. So the point is that it's not just 7, it's not just 10, not just 14, but historically there's not just 40, but there's over 70. And it's interesting that they say that these 70 are of higher rank and more virtuous, because Muslims today want you to think that the 7 readings that were later added to, there were later 3 added later by Ibn Jazari in the 15th century. And the 15th century. So think about this. Ibn Mujahid is living in the 10th century, and he canonizes the 7. And then in the 15th century, so 10th century to 15th century now, Ibn Jazari adds 3 more. And you should see the reasons for why he adds more. Like it's actually if you look at like some of the criticisms that Ibn Mujahid got, people were coming after him like, because you chose 7, people thought the 7 readings are the 7 ahruf. And because he caused that confusion, he was getting into a lot of trouble. And so anyway, eventually they ended up adding 3 more, not just for that reason, but for other reasons. And this just kind of dispels that myth that there's only one Quran. Well, we're way past that. And now we know that there's not just one, there's over 70, over 77, maybe even hundreds if you include the others as well. But I think it's interesting language to say that these are higher rank or more virtuous, because Muslims will have you believe today that these are all divinely inspired by Allah. So how can you have better than what's divinely inspired, right? How can you have that? It doesn't make sense. Just like when At-Tabari said that the reading of King, Malik, is greater or superior or more correct than the reading of Malik, owner. How can you say that if they're both divinely inspired? It doesn't make sense. So clearly At-Tabari did have a canon which he considered to be inspired, but his view of the readings of the Quran are not this view that Muslims have today. So it's interesting that the Muslims today, they view this stuff a lot higher than the Muslims who came before them, a lot higher, with greater respect and reverence, and claiming divinity to it and all that. So what's okay? Let's continue on now.
Manuscripts, the full Sahaf, because none of these Sahaf had the diacritical marks. Because even though the skeletal text, there was differences in skeletal text, it still accompanied all the readings that the Prophet, peace be upon him, taught. So that even though, like for example, we could take one manuscript went to Asham, to the region of Syria, the Levant. Those people would have been reading it according to that skeletal text, according to their teachers, that was transmitted back.
Can I ask you just a very basic question? Okay. The diacritical marks, when did they get introduced? Like in terms of century? What century would they introduce?
Introduced into the Quran?
Or just in general?
Oh, in general, in the 7th century.
In the 7th century?
In the 7th century they were used.
Okay, and if I were to go and research that, I would get. Where would I go to confirm that as a fact? Like, because I know there are inscriptions, and I know there are inscriptions in the 7th century that don't have diacritical marks.
Because the Arabs don't need that. Okay. Diacritical marks were a thing, but they were largely not used. Okay, and we know this because even I can't remember the quote specifically, because it was mentioned that there were diacritical marks prior to the Uthmanic Mus'haf.
Yeah.
But Uthman chose to leave them off to accommodate the readings. Now, some people talk about
this is, by the way, this is just a theory, but I'll get into some more detail. This is just a theory that he's just positing. And there's no evidence for this at all, that Uthman just left it undotted to accommodate for the other readings. This is his his thought. But we'll see what other Muslims have said, Muslim scholars, what they have to say.
About Abu Aswad and him introducing this in the reign of Ali.
Yeah.
That is not true.
Yeah, but do you not think not having diacritical marks would have introduced ambiguity, especially when one of the arguments that Islam has is that corruption entered the scriptures, right?
Agreed.
And the last thing Islam needs is corruption entering because of a lack of like 100%. This is what the text says. But if you don't have diacritical marks and you don't even have vocalization yet, that gives you a lot of scope for like variations.
No, true. Hold on, let me just address.
Yeah.
That is
So, great points. Great points from Mel. Now, all right, where do I want to go with this? So, there's an article by an academic by the name of Adam Bursey, and it's called Connecting the Dots. And I'll give you guys the link for this. If anyone is interested in this, I can't imagine there's like incredible interest in this topic, but like this particular topic. But if anyone's interested, like when did the dots and diacritical marks, when did those originate? How old are those? It's interesting that this Muslim rejects the Muslim tradition for when the diacritical marks were introduced, but he's appealing to this academic here. I don't know if he's like consciously appealing to this academic or he's just heard someone talk about it, and this is the original source for whatever he's referring to, because this is basically the scholarship on that people refer back to. So this scholar here, this academic, argues for within the Arabic script, and maybe I don't know if it's going to be too useful to get into this right now. Maybe better to show examples of what I'm talking about, but I'll try this and hopefully this will work. But his purpose of this study here is to show that the earliest manuscripts we have in the 7th century actually do have consonantal diacritics. So it's often said that the earliest manuscripts don't have diacritical marks or don't have dottings on the letters. So in Arabic, you don't just need dots to talk about like the vowels. Like I was talking earlier about like, like the word melik, like there's A vowels, right? That, A vowels and I vowel, you have to, those are not just the vowel, the vocalization, I guess that's the way to say it, the vocalization of the vowels, not just that, but actually to differentiate between the letters, like the letter that's like equivalent to the letter T in English and the letter that's equivalent to the letter B in English. In Arabic, they're only distinguished by dots. So if you have one dot below, then it's a B pronunciation. If you have two dots above, then it's a T pronunciation. If you have two dots below, it's a Y pronunciation. Three dots, it's a th. So anyway, you can see that you can see the confusion there if you don't have those dots. But he argues that you have not consistently, you have these. So this is like contrary to what a lot of people think. This kind of like broke. I don't know if it broke the consensus, but at least it kind of it's very interesting if you're into this stuff. I mean, like I said, it's not like a super interesting topic, but if you are into it, then you'd want to know about this. Like if this topic comes up and whatever, that you do have early examples of like diacritical marks for consonants to differentiate between different consonants, like sporadically. So, but he says insufficiently to create a completely unambiguous text. Now this is interesting. So the text is still ambiguous, even though it has consonantal diacritics. Now, I want to show you now a Muslim scholar, what he had to say. Oh yeah, thank you. Sam always putting it on the screen here. So you guys can see the difference between these letters. If you just look at like the line that they are either under or above, that will differentiate what the letter is. So if you're looking at it from the far right, it's pronounced like B, and then the middle letter is pronounced like T, and then th, like a th sound, like tha. So, yeah. So check this out. So this is in reference to the early manuscripts of the Quran, the way that Uthman copied them and made them. This is what Ibn Khaldun says. Ibn Khaldun, this is from Shali Nasser's book. This is a page. Do I not have the page number? That's not good. I don't have the page number. But this is the book that it comes from. And Ibn Khaldun said, Shali Nasser paraphrased him, says, condescendingly criticized the traditionalists for their ahistorical views regarding the development of the Arabic script. He stated that the early Arabic script was still underdeveloped when the companions wrote down the prototypical codices. Okay? So it's still underdeveloped. The imperfections of the early script have caused several discrepancies in the Uthmanic copies. Those who believe the companions excelled in Arabic orthography is like the writing, like the script, they, according to Ibn Khaldun, he says that they're idiots. Ibn Khaldun called them idiots. So why would he do that? Why would he say something like that? All right. So I'll give you guys an example. Here. All right. So if you look at the first line here, the first line right here, this is how it would have, this is how it's written in like the manuscripts. You don't have the dots at all, right? You don't have the dots at all. So there are actually a couple ways to read this text. This, like, they call it like the naked text or the skeletal text. So if you put the dots and the marks on the letters, you could get it to say that kebab has no oil in it. That kebab has no oil in it. Or you can get how the Quran has it today, which says that book has no doubt in it. So the only difference between these two, okay, you have, like, instead of the two dots here, you have one dot below. Instead of, the B stays the same. Instead of the dot on the top, you take that dot off. And then instead of the two dots here, you put one dot below. So the dots aren't original in these Uthmanic copies. And so you can read it as that. This is chapter 2, verse 2 in the Quran. Chapter 2, verse 2. That kebab has no oil in it. That book has no doubt in it. So zayt is oil. Raib is doubts. Al-kebab is, kebab, like when you go to the shop, get a kebab. And then al-kitab. Al-kebab, al-kitab. So you just change up the dots a little bit. The consonantal text stays the same. So this is not really comparable to English, where you have the vowels like built into the alphabet. That's what an alphabet is. An alphabet is a language that has, the consonants and the vowels together, the consonants and vowels together. And then this is called like an abjad script, which is like Hebrew and stuff, where you don't have the vowels. It's just consonantal letters, not vowels. Although historically with Hebrew, for example, you did have consonants that function as vowels, but that's a whole nother story. We won't get into that now. It's going to be too much. So there's another reading though that you could take, which is that book has no oil in it. That book has no oil in it. Now, there's a really interesting story about this one here. So you guys can take chapter 2, verse 2 of the Quran. You take off all the marks, and then you put on new marks. You can make it say that kebab has no oil in it, or you could say that book has no doubt in it, or you can say that book has no oil in it. And if you're really creative, you can probably come up with some more examples, right? More examples. But those are the three that I have right now. But if you're really creative, you can come up with more examples, I'm sure. All right. So there's something really interesting now that the last one relates to. This is there's a scholar called Sheikh Al-Huwaini. He's he's more modern of a scholar. He's dead now though, but he's more modern. And Al-Huwaini in his, this is like a they wrote down like his lectures or like his sermons or his lessons. They wrote down his lessons in a book. And a lot of times what you have like a, I'm not, in general, I'm talking like you'll have like modern kind of scholars in Islam who give like lots of speeches and lots of sermons, and then someone will transcribe what they say, and they'll print it into a book. So that's what this is, a printed version of his lessons. Now, in this section here, so if you want the Arabic, I'll give you guys the link for this. Let's go give you guys the link. So we'll give you guys just the link, and anyone who's interested in that, and then I'll put the translation up in just a second. So once I get it here, okay. So this is a really interesting story. So one of the readers of the Quran, one of the 7, his name is Hamza bin Habib, and they also call him Azayat. And why do they call him that? It has to do with oil. Remember I said Zayt is oil, right? So Azayat, why was he called Azayat? Well, this scholar, Sheikh al-Huwaini, says that he was one of the 7 readers. So he's one of the 7 that Ibn Mujahid chose. And he was given this nickname. Why was he given this nickname? Because when he recited the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 2, he would say, that book wherein there is no oil. That book wherein there is no oil. So, contrary to what the Yemeni Muslim said, that, people, because by the way, even though technically, Hamza bin Habib, technically he's not an Arab, he was Persian, but he's considered like one of the, like linguists of the Arabic language. So basically like an Arab, like his level of Arabic and his skills in Arabic. But he read it as the book has no oil. So the Quran today says that book, there's no doubt. And which, by the way, that's not necessarily talking about the Quran. This came up in the Islamic Dilemma project, where we looked at and we found that there are some interpretations of chapter 2, verse 2, when it says that book that's referring to the Torah and referring to the gospel. Just on like a footnote, if you're interested in that, for the Islamic Dilemma. So chapter 2, verse 2. So he read it as not there's no doubt in the book, but there's no oil in the book. And so his father, chastised him and said, go seek knowledge from the scholars. So ever since then, they called them azayat, like having to do with like oil, like a play on words, because of his recitation wherein there is no oil. So it's kind of a comical story. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but it's to illustrate a point that the text is ambiguous, and they're trying to say that you have to go to the scholars. You have to go to the scholars to figure out what in the world this confusing book is saying. What in the world this confusing book is saying. So we return to the video.
It is 100% true if you are relying upon the text. The text is not what we rely upon. But you have to understand the basis of the text was to establish what? For those who are coming into Islam from outside of the Arabian Peninsula. Because now what the issue was for Uthman was, first and foremost, those who are coming into Islam and learning the Quran, they started to hear different recitations. So they started to argue, right? And even come to blows, right?
Okay.
Regarding the recitation of the Quran. So Uthman was informed of this, and he standardized the text and sent them out into the 4 regions of the empire at the time, Medina, Kufa, Basra, and Sham. And he gave them that and said, look, this is the text of the Quran.
Yeah, so he keeps like mentioning the 4 like as if that's like a matter of fact, but as we already showed that that's not what Muslim scholars unanimously say. They don't know what the number is, and also this whole thing that Muslims don't rely on textual or written tradition, they only rely on oral tradition. It's not true. There are instances in the Islamic literature where you have the text that corrects the oral, and then you have instances where the oral corrects the text. So it's both ways, but it's not one or the other. It's both and. So, Uthman obviously didn't think he was going through all that trouble to burn all the different copies of the Quran that differed from his, because the text doesn't matter. Obviously, he didn't think that. So this idea that, we don't rely on, the written text is nonsense, because why would you burn the written text then? Right? If it's all memorized, like say this guy has the Quran memorized in a completely different version. Well, it's all memorized. Well, guess what? Burning his book is not going to do, burning the pages is not going to do anything. What is it going to do if it's all memorized? Obviously, there is something significant to that, which is why they spent so much time doing it. So, of course, take a modern Muslim today who just tries to throw out and dismiss all the efforts of Muslims for, these 1,000 years or so.
And those who would recite the Quran will be reciting based on this, okay? And they will teach it. And we know that there were other recitations, because in our history it records other recitations, and we even know about them, okay? We don't recite today.
Yeah, and not only that, but and I know you will agree with me at this point, but I want to bring this into the conversation.
Go
on. You know that there were recitations which were recited that you do not recite today, and you recognize them as being inauthentic falsifications.
I agree, yes.
That were introduced and were recited as Quran at that time because they didn't know any better. But you're convinced that there aren't any of these around anymore, even though it used to be the case for Muslims.
No. So in terms of it, look, when we talk about the corruption of the Quran, okay, that would have to mean that something that is not from the Prophet, peace be upon him, entering into the recitation or the text and being transmitted, okay? And for us to be taking that as canon, that would be corruption. Because we find within the manuscripts, okay, and we know about Brubeck as well.
And you would say that has happened, with the exception that you have later identified them and you no longer recite them.
No. That's not true.
If you saw, sorry to cut across you, but if you saw differences in the skeletal text between, say, one Quran and another, would that count as corruption for you?
No.
So what does?
If it's something that is not revealed by the Prophet, peace be upon him.
How would you identify that?
Yeah.
Because we have the chains of transmissions of the Quran, so it's been taught, mass transmitted, okay, across the world. So anything that is outside of that and cannot be traced back to the Prophet, peace be upon him, is false.
So how would someone like me verify any of this? Like, because I'll just be honest with you.
Yeah.
Most people would say that
This
you
is
can
why we
see
have an extensive
Yeah.
literature about ulum al-Quran.
Yeah, but so
Yeah, the extensive knowledge of the Islamic sciences. This is hilarious. All right, so a lot to say there, but let's go to the famous hadith about the different ahruf, which are not. This is not the same thing as the different qira'at. Now, Muslims want you to believe that the qira'at are actually all the ahruf, like in some, like they trace back to them, or they are at least part of them in some way. Now, this is just one of their many theories which they cannot prove and never prove, because they have no idea what the ahruf are. They have no idea what they are. But if you look at this hadith here, this is in Al-Bukhari 24:19. Give you guys the link for that. And this is the famous example when Omar heard Hisham reciting Surat Al-Furqan, which is chapter 25 in the Quran. He said, in a way that was different to that of mine. And so he said that Muhammad taught it to him in a different way. So I was about to quarrel with him during the prayer, but I waited till he was finished. Oh, how nice of him. He's like, I was about to rip this guy's head off, but I waited till he was done praying. And then I tied his garment around his neck and seized him by it. So he grabs him and grabs him by the clothes that he's wearing, the garment that he has on. He wraps it around his neck, strangles him with it, and drags him to Muhammad. I mean, this is how the Muslims love each other. The beautiful love of the Muslims. This guy is giving us death threats, and I don't know if he's like saying he's giving people death threats about if they insult Muhammad and insult Allah. But you look at how Muslims treat each other. This is how they treat each other. This is their examples where they basically try to kill each other over the Quran. Anyway, so Muhammad basically says it was revealed in this way and it was revealed in this way. Now, what's interesting about this story is that Omar, so let's say Muhammad, he started to, let's say he began his false prophetic career around like 609, 610 or something like that, right? And he dies in 632. So 23 years. So yeah, we'll say 609. And then Omar becomes a Muslim around 616. Okay? Around 616. But Hisham became a Muslim around the year 630. Okay? So Hisham became a Muslim around the year 630. He was one of the late converts to Islam, like in Muhammad's lifetime. Muhammad was only alive for a few more years after Hisham converted to Islam. So think about this. This guy who's been around Muhammad for like 15 years, he's never heard this reading of the Quran before. And then this new Muslim comes along who just converted a second ago, and he's like, oh no, this is how it is. This is how Muhammad taught me. But Omar had no idea. He had no clue. Like, he's like, I never heard this before. He wanted to kill him because of this. He wanted to kill him, or he wanted to really, damage him. And so there's something fishy there, right? There's something fishy there. But anyway, there's another article that I'm going to recommend for people. And here's the link for it. It's from a scholar named Christopher Melchertz. And I'm going to pull that up right now, because we're going to show, like, Muslims even later having these similar kind of reactions to each other. So this is called Ibn Mujahid in the Establishment of the 7 Quranic Readings. You guys can download it on academia.edu in that link that I just sent. And then if you go to page 16 in the PDF, and for some reason it's like tilted like this. I guess I could screenshot it and fix it, but just for the sake of time, I'll leave it. There was someone by the name of Ibn Shanabuth who existed in the 10th century, contemporaneous to Ibn Mujahid. Ibn Mujahid is the one who canonized the 7 readings. So this guy called Ibn Shanabuth would continue to recite the Quran according to the reading of Ibn Mas'ud and Ubay and others. Now, interestingly, what's interesting about Ibn Mas'ud and Ubay? What's interesting about them? Muhammad said to learn the Quran from 4. Learn the Quran from 4. And who did he say to learn from? Well, one of them is Ibn Mas'ud, and the other is Ubay. So this guy is reciting the Quran according to Ibn Mas'ud and according to Ubay. So what happens? So Ibn Mujahid, it says that Ibn Mujahid, argued with him about these, and then it goes on to say Ibn Shanabuth argued for these rare variants and refused to recant before the vizier. And a convention of qadis, which are judges, jurisprudence, okay, qadis, jurisprudence, Quran readers, etc. It says he was chastised and recanted after 10 lashes. So Ibn Mujahid brought this guy to court because he didn't accept his readings. He wouldn't accept his readings because he thought that he had chains that go back to Ibn Mas'ud and to Ubay. And then Ibn Mujahid's like, no, I have political power. I'm going to enforce my readings. And so after 10 lashes, they whipped this guy 10 times. He recanted his position. And then they made him say this. They made him say, I used to recite variants differing from what is in the Codex of Uthman bin Affan, which is subject to consensus and on which were agreed the companions. Okay, so then he signed it. It was signed by 3 witnesses. Okay, it was signed by 3 witnesses. So this idea of Muslims enforcing their readings of the Quran on other Muslims is not something that's like just to the companions of Islam, where Uthman would burn other companion readings of the Quran. And now in the 10th century, this tradition continued on. So this idea that, Muslims corruption is only going to enter into the text if it's something that is transmitted that's not from Muhammad. Well, there's a lot to say about that. So let's just go to Ibn Mujahid's book. This is his famous book on the 7 readings of the different Qur'ans. And I'll give you guys the link for this as well. And you'll see if you scroll down here, I'll put the English for it. But let's pull it up on the screen for the English. He says that, now this is something that is not like we don't need to go into too much detail into this, but if you go to chapter 3, verse 97 in the Quran, chapter 3, verse 97, there is a difference between Hajj and Hajj. And the way that Awesome, the one that Muslims read today, Hafs, according to Awesome, read this. He read the word Hajj as a noun and Hajj as a verb. Again, you don't need to learn this stuff. This is not the important point. But this is the important thing. Ibn Mujahid said that this is an error, that it's actually al-Hajj is the verb and al-Hajj is the noun. So this is the important thing, that Hafs is transmitting something that Muslims claim is from Muhammad. That's what they want us to believe. But yet Ibn Mujahid is saying this is an error. This is a mistake. So the guy who canonized your readings, the 7, is saying that there are mistakes and errors in them. So do you really think that Ibn Mujahid believed that Muhammad made these mistakes? Or do you think that he thought that the readings were just not divine and that they just, like he said, they differed the way that jurists differed about the law? The way that you have different legal rulings on different things, that's how jurists differ. Like, they don't call them divine differences. Like it's called fiqh. Like one Muslim is going to say, oh, this particular seafood is halal, and another Muslim scholar is going to say, oh, this particular seafood is haram. Well, they wouldn't say that those are like divine rulings. It's just their scholarly opinion. That's how Ibn Mujahid introduces the differences of the readings of the Quran. He says that they differed like the way jurists differ, the scholars of fiqh. Now, so he's saying that Hafs is making an error, is making a mistake, but yet it somehow made it into your Quran, Yemeni Muslim. How did that happen? And then there's another point that I want to make. I want to bring up something that is noted by Daniel Pikachu here. We'll put it up here. Check this out. Listen to what he says. He's talking about the Bismillah that Muslims say at the beginning of every chapter, except for chapter 9, etc. But this is what he says. Listen to him here, because actually, let me have the guy make his point first. He'll make his fuller point, and then we'll come back to Daniel. Let's hear this one more time.
Say that
this
you
is why
can
we
see
have an extensive
yeah.
literature about ulum al-Quran.
Yeah, but so most people would say that corruption in a text is fairly easy to identify. The letters, the words are different from one text to another. Not how I think most people would say.
The thing is, for a Muslim, what we see as being differences in the text, somebody must have made a mistake.
Yeah.
They invent a tradition and say that it all came from Muhammad.
I just want to say that the brother who said that, King Servant, who was here in the chat, I believe that's King Servant at least. This is what Muslims do. So early Muslims did identify these things as errors, just like we would as non-Muslims. Early Muslims agreed that there is many errors in the readings, but then, like he said, later Muslims just made it up and said, "Oh no, you can't have mistakes." And in fact, when you actually read what these Muslim scholars say, like for example, Ibn Mujahid will criticize a reading and he'll say that it's not grammatical, it's grammatically incorrect, and then later Muslims will come along and say, "Well, it has to be correct because it's the Quran." Like that's literally what their argument is. Like, oh, this came from one of the readings of Muhammad, so therefore it can't have an Arabic mistake because it comes from a native Arab, and it's like the coping is crazy. So it is later Muslims who come along and say that. He's actually 100% correct, but Yemenite, whatever his name is, he denies that.
must have made a mistake.
Yeah.
They invent a tradition and say that it
Yeah.
all came from
Whoa,
Muhammad.
whoa.
Yeah.
Invent a tradition. Establish
Yeah.
that. That's the thing.
I'm
You have to
saying-
establish the invention of the
Yes,
tradition.
see, this is the point. Your material comes later to explain what comes before.
No.
But you know that the Quran precedes the Hadith tradition.
No, they come at the same time.
Orally, but in terms of writing down,
Our tradition is an oral tradition primarily. The written stuff, the written hadith, the written Qur'an, we do not need it.
Okay. I'm going to go. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, we don't need it. Okay. Yeah, these guys are such liars. You guys can see how easy it is to expose these guys. But let's talk about these, whether or not something can make it into Islamic tradition that Muslims aren't even sure about. So let's check out Daniel here.
A very well-known disagreement is on the Basmala. Bismillah. Is that part of every surah of the Quran? Is it only part of Surah Al-Fatiha? There is a well-known disagreement among the schools of thought on this.
All right. So this Bismillah is not even agreed upon from the Muslims. And you can go to Islam Q&A, Islam question and answers, and there's disagreement. The scholars differ concerning the Basmala. Is it a verse at the beginning of each surah, or only at the beginning of Al-Fatiha, or is it not a verse at all? Well, guess what? It depends on which scholar you go to. So Shafi'i will say that the Basmala is the opening Quranic verse in each surah, including Al-Fatiha, except for chapter 9. That's the one that they all agree doesn't exist there. But then the Malikis say that the Basmala is not a Quranic verse at all, and the only time that it appears in the Quran is chapter 27 verse 30. So they say, yeah, it appears there, but every time else it doesn't appear. Hanafis believe that the Basmala is not a part of each surah, but it is a Quranic verse that is kind of used as a separator between the chapters. Okay, and so you'll see. Do I want to get into this? Well, this different Qurans will have this differently. Like where does the verse begin? Does the verse begin with the Bismillah, or does it? It's depending on how, if you consider it to be part of the Quran or not. Obviously, you're gonna number the Quran differently, and in terms of the order. So I don't know if you noticed earlier, but when I was showing variant readings, it said it'll say 16, this is verse 16 in this version, it's verse 15 in another version, because they differ on the Bismillah. So here's another book here from a Muslim scholar, and he says the same thing, that Malik did not consider it to be a verse of any surah. Shafi'i and Ahmed consider it to be a verse that is part of every surah except chapter 9 of the Quran. Abu Hanifa considered it to be independently revealed. So the point is this, guys. What's the point? The point is that Muslims like to tell us that the Quran is transmitted by mass transmission so that it's impossible for it not to be divinely inspired. Even though Ibn Jazari, who canonized the later 3, which became the 10 readings, even though he rejected this concept of mutawatir and things like that, is even though it's really funny because you'll have printed editions that say the 10 qira'at according to Ibn Jazari, and then it calls them mutawatira, which is mutawatir, right? These are all mutawatir. And it's funny because the guy who canonized them didn't agree that they're mutawatir. He didn't agree that they're mass transmitted. And in fact, he has an argument for why that can't be the case, or why that's not the case. Interesting things that he has to say there, but we don't have to get into that now. But the point is that when Muslims argue that the Bismillah in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, that they argue that this is part of the Quran, according to some Muslims, and other Muslims say it's not part of the Quran. And some Muslims are like, oh, it's part of the Quran, but we don't know where it is. Is it like a chapter divider, or is it what do we do, except for chapter 9? The point is this, that if it's true that it's mass transmitted to the point where it's just so obviously the case, like it's like as if you're saying like the sun sets or the sun rises, like that's what mutawattir is supposed to be. Like it's so clear, so obvious that you don't need any other verification because it comes from so many people. But how is it that you can't even agree on if this is part of the Quran or not? If this is part of the Quran, then why do some Muslim scholars say it's not in the Quran, and some say that it is? If this mass transmission thing is true, that everybody just kind of knows it's the truth because it's so mass transmitted, well then what happened to the Bismillah? What happened to that? What happened to the mutawattir-ness of that, or the mass transmission-ness of that? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Their argument falls. It falls short. It's not mass transmitted apparently, because they don't know if it's part of the Quran or not. So that means that according to some Muslims of the Maliki school, that they have something that crept its way into the Quran that is not actually in the Quran. It's not part of the Quran. And other Muslims say, oh, it is part of the Quran. So they don't even know about that, guys. And when you bring this up to Muslims, 9 times out of 10, they'll have no idea. So you have to bring them the sources like I just showed you. But when you find a Muslim who's knowledgeable on that, they usually just like run away or they change topics. So what are you going to do? Anyway, that was the discussion with Mel and King's Servant and Yemeni Muslim, Yemenite Front, who likes to give people death threats. And that's that was that discussion, guys, and that was my take on that, my review of that. And like I said, a lot of points can be expanded on further, but that's sufficient, I think. But if anything needs more evidence, if you want to write in the comments like, hey, can you add some more evidence for this point, or can you give the source for this or source for that, whatever, I'm happy to do so. So I want to, as we do, we like to relate these topics to the Bible. So we want to show what the Lord Jesus says about preservation. The Lord Jesus says, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. And we know that the words of the Lord Jesus are preserved. It's in our manuscript tradition. It is in our tradition, and the Lord is the truth, and he tells the truth. And the words of the Lord are preserved. They are preserved. Psalm 12, verses 6 through 8. The words of the Lord are pure. The words of the Lord are pure words, like silver tried in a furnace of earth, purified 7 times. You shall keep them, O Lord. You shall preserve them from this generation forever. The wicked prowl on every side when vileness is exalted among the sons of men. So the words of the Lord are pure, and they are preserved. They're like purified 7 times in the furnace, and God preserved his word. He's true to his word, and he preserved his word. It's beautiful. And in Revelation chapter 22, there's some like differences of interpretation here, if this is only referring to the book of Revelation or referring to the Bible as a whole. But this is what it says: for I testify to everyone who hears the words of the prophecy of this book. So Revelation, the entirety, there's this is what it said: if anyone adds to these things, God will add to him the plagues that are written in this book. If anyone takes away from the words of this book, of this prophecy, God shall take away his part from the book of life, and from the holy city, and from the things which are written in this book. So have assurance that the true God has preserved his words, and you can have confidence and know that this is just another testimony of the prophetic words of the Lord that he spoke and they came to pass. These words are preserved. Here we are, thousands of years later, we still have them, and the gospel is the same as it was in the beginning. That the Lord came, he died for your sins, he rose from the dead 3 days later, and if you repent and believe in him, you will have eternal life. So All right, guys, that is what I have for you today. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. I never know how these streams are going to go. You know, these streams where we kind of get a little, I don't know if it's technical or maybe a little dense, or I don't know. I really enjoy these, you know, so hopefully that you can see that I really enjoy doing these streams. But I also know that, you know, maybe it can be a little denser, maybe a little boring. I don't know if you go too technical or something. So I don't want to bore people or anything like that. But I do want to share this for the sake of those who are interested to share these things with Muslims, to ultimately show them that Islam is false and their narrative is false, and give them, you know, once you show them that there are holes in the narrative, that the same narrative has holes, then you can really see them and their eyes will drop from Islam and they'll stop looking at Islam. Sorry. They'll stop looking at Islam in the way that they look at it, and then you can point them to the holes in the hands and in the feet of the Lord Jesus Christ, that he took those nails in his hands and they created holes for them, for their salvation, that he died and rose again 3 days later for them. So yeah, we really appreciate you guys and love you guys, from both me and from Daughter of Christ. We love you guys, and if you guys could, please do hit the like button, like the stream, and if you can drop a comment afterwards, that'd be really nice too. We really appreciate that. Like in the comment section, not in the live chat, but in the comment section. And then you know, that really just helps the algorithm. So we want to spread it to as many as we can, as many as the Lord wills, and we appreciate all the help that you guys give. So thank you guys, and God bless you, and we will see you on the next stream. So Jesus is Lord and Islam is false. Now, what song do we want to end with? We'll do the Don't Imagine It song. We'll do this one. Actually, you know what? Should we, in light of the fact that this guy likes to threaten people, remember he said, like at the beginning, we showed he gives like death threats to people. I think we'll do this song instead. This is maybe more fitting for him.
The punishment for apostasy is death. The laws of the Sharia should be applied, including the death penalty for not only apostates, but also blasphemers.
We'll be watching.
Your blood is halal. Your blood is halal. 100% halal.
It just backfired on you. It just backfired on you. This is a part of our religion. There's a reason to it. Yeah. There's a reason why there's a capital punishment.
100%, yes.
Yeah. Because people like you, little weaklings, leave their religion and cause corruption in the land by spreading it. The capital punishment in Islamic law will be applied to you. You have no doubt. You're proud of that. You're proud of that. You're proud of that.
Your blood.
It just backfired on you. You're proud of that. You're proud of that. You're proud of that.
100% halal.
And we're proud of that. Yeah. Capital punishment will be applied in an Islamic state. Yeah. Not individuals going and doing it themselves like idiots. Yeah. No, under an emir, it is done. Yes, and we, you know what? We'll be watching. We'll be watching. We're proud of that. We're proud of that. We're proud of that. It just backfired on you. We're proud of that. We're proud of that. We're proud of that. It just backfired on you.
The punishment for apostasy is death.